Hey friends, Ari here. I hope you're well and welcome to another episode of Deep Thoughts Thursday. And thanks again for tuning in. So today's topic, I have no idea if there's any practical benefit to think about it, but nevertheless I think it makes for a good philosophical debate, maybe a little pretentious one. So the question is music an art or an entertainment? And for the purpose of discussion, I would define art as something that is entirely artist driven. It is something that the artist is doing to express himself or for his own muse or for his own curiosity as an experiment, whatever. It is entirely just for his own self-gratification and nobody else's needs or interests or concerns are in his mind. And then on the other hand is the entertainment, which is entirely audience-driven, is that the musician or artist, in this case, is trying to basically perform what he or she believes the audience would like to hear, and that is entirely driven by the desire to cater to somebody else's needs, to entertain, to get them engaged, to perhaps take them away for a while, provide good distractions, what have you, right? I will first of all say that I'm not saying that art is good and entertainment is bad, not at all. I think it is a spectrum. It's that it's in all of us who make music, we sit somewhere between the two extremes of art, the music being self-driven or audience-driven. Even those who say that they are artists, I think it's probably not that likely that they're like 100% self-driven, like they're like, I don't care about what anybody else thinks at any point in time. While there's nothing not noble about being an entertainer, I think entertainers are great if that's sort of really is your muse, is to just do what people want, and then when people receive that, of course there's a lot of satisfaction and gratification in that. It's a bit like developing a product and bringing it to marketplace, and as a business person you're trying to figure out what your audience or consumer or customers are looking for, right? And you're trying to meet in the middle between what meets their needs, between what you want to do, and again, depending on your place in the spectrum, you might be willing to go pretty far to the left to just cater to nothing but the audience without regard for himself. But if you completely disregard self, I think that can lead to burnout because you're just entirely disregarding your own needs in terms of what you want to do. So we all sort of fall somewhere between being an artist and being an entertainer. How is this useful? No, it's not. But I think it's kind of interesting thing to explore. It certainly is for me in terms of just kind of finding out where do I fit, right? So when I write songs, I am being fairly artist. Like, I would say probably like 90% artist in that I'm just doing it to satisfy my own self, and if I think it's a good song, it's a good song. And I've recently had the opportunity to revisit my work from years and years ago because I just released my back catalog to streaming, and I listened to my first solo album from 2007. That's 13 years ago, right? And I listened to it and I was like, wow, I mean, there is so much to like here, and I still like the songs, and it's definitely gratifying for my own self. And I was impressed that like once I get down to and get into the music making mode, I can successfully get other concerns out of the window and I can just focus on what I like. But then there's definitely a part of me that says, I created something, I would love for this to be shared and appreciated by somebody other than me or other people. So I might package it in a way that is accessible. I'm open to getting other people's feedback to see, you know, if the song strikes them the way I think that it would, or is there any other sort of words or metaphor that has sort of hidden meanings that I wasn't thinking about, so it just kind of takes the songs in a different journey. Or that part is definitely the 10% or 15% of being audience driven, is that I want to sort of test it out and see if I can come toward the audience just a little bit, just enough to say it's mostly me, but it would be great if it works for you as well. And I think things like creating set lists, you know, which songs you kind of let it get stale, or which songs you keep coming back to when you perform them, those kind of decisions are definitely created in collaboration with the audience, in that a lot of times you might go, yeah, people like that song, or so-and-so said that about that song, and those sort of voices enter your mind and you're letting that influence your decisions, and you're leaning more towards the middle. The other end of the spectrum, of course, is a pure entertainer, and entertainers, again, God bless them, we need them. I like entertainers. They would just do whatever it is that the audience want them to do, and they gladly take requests, and they keep on playing popular songs and hits, and they get off on just going after big how should I say, big receipt. That doesn't sound right. Just big impact in terms of the audience. And a lot of the bands that have been around for a long time, I think there's a lot of entertainers in them, and it gives them the power and joy of having created something that really is received widely. And the thought of sort of deviating away from that to just satisfy your own personal muse might seem self-indulgent at that point. Bands like ACDC is fascinating to me, because I think they're obviously entertainers. They create this, they may have started out being artists, like, you know, let's rock this thing, and just it was doing it, but then once they find out that, wow, the audience really dug it, right? Angus Young dresses like a schoolboy 50 years later. He doesn't see the need to change. I don't know if he has other muses, if he has any need to branch out. Maybe he does, and he does it in his private life. When he's out there with the audience, he doesn't care. I mean, they stick to their guns, just playing the big hits most of the time, from what I understand. And they can do it with such sincerity, they can do it with such rigor, and such, they just wholeheartedly embrace that, the entertainer in themselves, that we don't sense as an audience that they are trying to manipulate us. That, like, some entertainers, yeah, I feel like they're kind of playing it, right? Playing the audience, and just kind of, there is something a lot more, I don't want to call it sinister, not quite that dark, but just a little bit more manipulative going on. But with the case of ACDC, you look at them and go, yep, he's doing exactly what he's meant to do, and I don't know if anybody has any doubts about that, or who knows what is going on with Angus Young's mind, but that's what I sense when I watch him in his performance videos. And that's one extreme. A lot of artists, they need to evolve, they need to change, they get bored, right? So that's more artistic driven, and then the audience kind of miss them sometimes. Sometimes they can't follow along. they have to realize that there was a certain moment in their creative journey that sort of really connected where the artist was and where the audience wanted, and boom, that's a beautiful moment. Nothing lasts forever. They part ways. Things like that happen. So I think if you are a musician, it is somewhat useful, maybe not very, but to explore that sort of where, you know, between the two extremes, where do you stand? Like, where do you feel most at home, right? Do you really feel committed to your own singular vision about what works for you, mostly without the regard of others? Or do you care less about making your own statement, and do you just want to entertain and, you know, let people have a good time? Again, both are noble, both are equally worthy, both are valuable, needed, all that. And I think if you're an audience person, I think it might be useful to look at your favorite artists and go, where do they fall in this spectrum, right? And depending on where you think they are, it might change your expectations in terms of, will they really play the hits for us or will they not? Like R.E.M. I remember in one interview, Michael Stipe said, if audience came away thinking, oh yeah, I heard every single hit there is to hear from them, that was not exactly what he was going for in his live shows. So that tells me that R.E.M., their set list is kind of a middle ground, perhaps, between what they want to play and what audience might want to hear. I've been watching a lot of Glen Phillips solo shows during the lockdown, and he's played a lot of them. He plays 4 times a week, and I've been amazed by the depth of his catalog and how he can effortlessly pull out song after song every night. And I think that as a songwriter, he's mainly an artist. But from the setlist perspective, night after night, and again, I'm not saying this is a bad thing or anything like that at all, but fans ask for same songs every night. Now, Total Wet Sprocket has devoted fans who are very well versed in their deep cuts and stuff like that. So the range of songs that people request are perhaps wider than some other, like a one-hit wonder or a few hits on the radio kind of acts. But the point remains, every night somebody asks for All You Want. Somebody asks for Walk in the Ocean, right? Somebody asks for Something's Always Wrong. And a lot of times he obliges to some of them, others he said another night. Balancing act. But he's been graciously entertaining us, and I think he finds that it is useful. And in fact, I've seen him at first very tentative in that he didn't like promote his shows or anything. He just kind of turned up one day and said, oh, okay, let's try this. And then show after show, he started doing, like, putting nicer camera on, setting up nicer microphone, right? And now he's making a little digital poster, posting on Instagram and Facebook going, oh yeah, I'm gonna play these kinds of songs on next day. That sort of thing, which is something he didn't used to do before, and his audience actually has grown. That's the beautiful thing about artists keeping showing up at a regular pace. Anyway, so that was a long tangent, but at the end of the day, today's topic, we have two extremes: self-driven, audience-driven, art versus entertainment. In that spectrum, where do you fall? Where does your favorite act fall? Something to think about? Something fun to think about if you're ever bored? Or maybe not. You let me know. Okay? Alright, that's it for today. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.